Good evening and welcome. This is the People's Platform. With the prevailing economic crisis and the resulting desperation people are facing, there's been a spike in cases of scams, specifically those related to the online space. So today's topic of discussion is how we can be wary of cyberspace scams, cryptocurrency, cybercrime, and grievance redressal mechanisms in Sri Lanka. We've invited to our show three guests, Mrs. Sujit Christie, a cybersecurity expert, functions as the president of ISC Squared Colombo chapter. Good evening and welcome to you. We're also joined by Assistant Director Police Media, ASP Frederick Wootler. Good evening and welcome. And finally, Charuka Damanupola, Senior Information Security Engineer, Sri Lanka CERT. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
My first question is to Mr. Sujit Christie. Speak to us about the cyber crime incidents, especially given the fact that if we take normal scams, these are very traceable. So you have robbery and theft. However, when you take crimes such as cryptocurrency-related scams, we're talking about an intangible currency that exists just on the internet. It's non-existent, but people keep investing in it. Speak to us about this difference and how it's faced in Sri Lanka, the issues faced in Sri Lanka.
So Nali, economic conditions, right, and the economy situation is also propelling people to consider various forms of revenue generation, right? So that's one. The second aspect is people are emotional. They are also looking at various ways to find easy ways to generate or find revenues to meet their expenses. So that's one. But when you look at the attackers, their primary motive is to look at the emotional behavior of people. Mm-hmm. So if they can spot there is a urgency, there's desperation, or if, let's say, if they identify that the person is greedy, they would probably customize the way they would actually target that individual. Mm-hmm. Now, today, most of these attackers, it could be a local person who is sitting here in the island who is trying to target the citizens, or it could be a person who is sitting in another country, or they could be even collaborating to do this. And most of these toolkits are readily available for maybe a few dollars of investments. So what they try and do is they try and, spam people or, kind of send these messages saying, click on this, you would get this. So everybody thinks a click could actually help them gain a lot of money or things like that. So again, the crypto, one of the other things which you asked, okay, why is it becoming so popular? Right? Because it is suddenly gaining traction where people can use as an alternative currency. Because today when people are talking about digital transformation, digital currency is also an aspect which every country is also looking at. But it is all in a premature stage, right? So people are still trying to gauge how they would regulate, how they would actually look at it from a central bank's perspective to understand and execute them on the ground. So a lot of other aspects from a legal framework perspective is still being discussed and analyzed. But while this is being analyzed, there is also a demand for these where people think it can actually give them an advantage. Because in some certain countries, we are also seeing that, you can even trade using bitcoins, or in some countries, people are even paying partial salaries using bitcoins. So it is becoming a parallel currency and hoping that it will become a digital cash at some point in time.
Right. But now, Mr. Christie, if we take Bitcoin, today it's at 21,000 US dollars, but in 2009, one Bitcoin was less than $1. So how is this possible? Because if we take the characteristics of money, the durability, divisibility, uniformity, limited supply, acceptability, portability, none of these characteristics are there in cryptocurrency. And the central bank does not regulate it, so it's unregulated.
It is unregulated.
So this is very dangerous.
It is very dangerous. I mean, while one would say it is dangerous, but then people think that's the way to go. Right. So it's kind of, I would say, I would use the word hedging. In some cases, people are hedging. Now, I know in certain countries, when the ransomware attacks were surging, the attackers would demand ransom in cryptocurrencies.
Right.
So some companies were investing in cryptocurrencies.
Okay.
So then there is also another situation where the governments are saying paying ransom in itself can be against the national security guidelines or against the nation's laws. So in a situation like that, the companies are trying to salvage their business, so they would want to pay in some form. So there is a demand artificially being created. So that's one of the reasons why you can see a spike of those prices.
Right. Thank you very much for setting the stage. Charuka Damanupala, you work as a senior information security engineer at Sri Lanka CERT. Speak to us initially about the role of CERT in combating, in reducing the incidence of cybercrime.
Yes, Sonali. Actually, Sri Lanka CERT was established as a national CERT by Sri Lanka ICT agency in 2006 as part of protecting government infrastructure. So Sri Lanka CERT is mandated in task of protecting these cybersecurity related incidents, especially in terms of proactively as well as to do reactive measures against these cyber attacks. So as a focal point to the public to reach in terms of any cybersecurity related incidents, Sri Lanka CERT is providing technical support in terms of any cybersecurity related incidents. For the past few years, especially during this COVID-19 situation, I think we see a lot of increase in terms of reports related to cybersecurity incidents. So the main role of Sri Lanka CERT is to provide that assistance to the public in terms of resolving cybersecurity incidents.
Speak to us about the number of incidents that you've, the number of complaints that have come to you during the last year, and the nature of the majority of these complaints.
Yes, Sonali. So if you look at the incidents, type of incidents, we have categorized them by looking at the characteristics of each and every cybersecurity incidents. So most of the incidents are related to social media, which are, some of them are we are directing to the Sri Lanka Police special unit in cybersecurity. And if you look at the other cybersecurity related incidents, mostly they are directly relevant to cybersecurity, such as ransomware attacks, phishing attacks. And also if you look at this COVID-19 period, people used to work from home because of the restrictions, and because of that we see a number of incidents, especially in terms of email frauds and also computer scams in rising during this period. And if you look at the number, there are around 16,000 number of incidents for social media, and around 300 cases reported to us relevant to computer scams. And if you take email related scams, normally in 2020 we receive around 60, and in 2021 it has increased to around 200.
Right. Yeah. Okay. When we speak about grievance redressal mechanisms, the first place that we go to is the Sri Lanka Police. ASP Woodler, speak to us about the procedure involved if a person becomes a victim to some sort of cyber crime or scam. What does one do? What procedure does one follow?
Okay, first let me thank Sonali, Serisa TV for inviting the Sri Lanka Police to represent, and also special thanks goes to the Inspector General of Police and also the Director Police spokesperson for arranging this event for me. Your first question, Sonali, we were when you talk about these scam issues, I have to give a first message to the society that everybody should know the law. There is a presumption that everybody has to know the law. And Sinhaleng, නීතිය නොදැනීම සමාවේ හේතුවක් නොමැත කියන ආප්තයක්. There is a saying like that. It's a maxim. It's a maxim. So, whilst telling that, the people of the society should act according to the laws and the procedures of this country. A victim can always go to any police station at any time. He or she could go to the police station, meet the respective officer in charge or the headquarters chief inspector, and submit her or her the submission, like the complaint. The officer in charge will listen to the story, and he will understand whether it's a criminal act or a civil act. At times, there are scam issues, Sonali. The complainant knows the perpetrators. So at a time like that, the complainant, the police will get the consent of the complainant and get either parties to the police station and try to see whether it could be settled amicably. If the consent is not given by the complainant, yes, the matter will be referred to a court of law and to be ended in a court of law. And second thing, if the perpetrator is not known, this matter will be referred to the Cyber Crimes Information Division, which is established in Colombo under the CID. Now in Sri Lanka, altogether there are 4. The main office is at the CID, the Criminal Investigation Department, that you call the Cyber Crimes Investigation Division. There are other 4 areas which do have subcommittees, sub-units, like in Kandy, Matara, Ampara, and CID. So any person who has been victimized could go to the nearest police station and speak to the OIC and come out with his grievance.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that introduction. Mr. Christie, if we take the legal framework in Sri Lanka at present, there are several statutes to provide for or to regulate the digital cyberspace. For example, the Electronic Transactions Act, the Computer Crimes Act, we have an act against money laundering. However, we must acknowledge that there are lacunas or loopholes in the law. As a cybersecurity expert, what are the areas that you can sort of highlight, and what areas do people need to be cautioned of?
Right. Very interesting question, right? So I'm not sure whether we could conclude saying there are loopholes, right? So I would say it's more of in terms of knowing what the risk is, right, and whether we have the appropriate controls to mitigate those risks, right? So law is only one aspect of it. The other aspect is the enforcement. So in between is where we are looking at implementation and ensuring that we do not deviate or find ourselves non-compliant to a regulatory requirement or a legal requirement. So I guess today what we have to look at is whether we take a risk-based approach to address or meet our business objectives, if I'm talking from a corporate perspective, right? So even in a private perspective or in an individual capacity, as citizens or users of the internet, are we doing what we are supposed to do? Would we do certain things what we wouldn't do in the physical space, right? So when we think that nobody is watching us, or if I can do something in the internet when nobody is watching and that will go undetected, that is also a cause for concern. So when I'm looking at these two from 2 different angles, one, what is my risk? What is that I need to do to protect or minimize my impact? The other one is to create awareness amongst the civil society as well as the corporate users, saying, okay, this is what the law dictates, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to conduct our businesses so that we can stay safe from any perpetration or any attacks per se. So right now, what we are seeing is the awareness levels are increasing with time. Right, and there are new laws which are being enacted as well. Like now, if you look at very recently, we had the Data Protection Act, which came into force, right? So it will be fully functional by end of next year. So the organizations now have to look at, from that legal requirement perspective, how are we conducting our business? We can't conduct our business the way we've been doing in the past. So that means there's a transformation which has to take place, and that transformation has to happen fast,
Right.
so that the information what they collect is handled the way it should be handled.
ASP Butler, Christie was saying that the transformation, societal transformation, has to happen fast. How important is it to create awareness among the public that in addition to the usual theft, robbery kind of scenarios, we are now moving to the online digital space? And because we see that especially among villagers, this awareness is at bare minimum, right? Because it's usually the 50-year-olds, the 60-year-olds who get an SMS saying subscribe to this service or click on this or deposit 100,000 rupees and we'll give you $1 million, and they actually do it. Not with the cash they have, but they probably take loans. And as a result of this, we see a large number of people in society getting victimized, especially those with very from the lower middle classes, etc. So speak to us about this shift in the consciousness almost, because we need to create awareness among people. And what is the role of the police? Is the police doing any awareness campaigns currently regarding cybercrime?
Yes, Sonali. Now we talk of laws, conventions, acts, all those things are there. But unless otherwise, if we don't make the people aware of the facts, all those complaints will come daily on a very increasement way. But the Sri Lanka police, I will show a figure to you which relates records. It goes the records of 2021 and 2022. I don't know whether you could.
You can read it out.
You can
also.
read it.
Yes.
Facts and figures. Incident reported to Computer Crime Investigation Division in 2021.
Right.
Money scam 518. And in the year 2022, money scam 126.
In the year 2022, thus far up to now.
It decreased. It's a decreasement.
Okay.
2021.
In the 8 years.
No.
Sorry, 8 months. Yeah.
8 months.
Right.
And the second unauthorized access 316 and unauthorized access 50 in 2022. And sexual harassment, there are 220 cases reported. And 2022, there are 40 cases reported. Published naked photo, 288 complaints have been received by the Cybercrimes Investigation Division. And in 2022, it's 147. Likewise, it appears that there is a decrease. Though we talk about laws and everything, the awareness programs have been well manned by the Sri Lanka police. How it happens, you said when you were talking about the local police stations. So now each and every police station, they do have a community policing unit in every police station. So what happens is, and also there is a child women bureau unit in every police station in the country. So these figures are decreased due to these visiting by village to village, Grama Sevaka division to division. All these police officers are making attempt to decrease this amount, and also with examples. Now for instance, Sonali, nowadays the latest trend is you get jobs on online. The people say like mention
work from home.
Work from home. You get a day, you'll be paid 10,000 rupees a day, and at the end of the month, 10,000 into 30, it's a huge money. So what happens is the people say, right, they submit an application. What do the application have? The name, full name, address, national identity card, copy of the national identity card, photograph or photocopy of the passport. All these matters are being to be submitted to the respective application. So what are people do it? We just submit to the society.
Right.
We just submit it to the
Perpetrator.
the perpetrator. What he does is, he takes a photocopy of the national identity card and he borrows or purchases a SIM card. He starts with all his illegal activities. So those are some of the examples. We
Stolen
take the application form from town to town, from village to village. As you very correctly pointed out, the middle class people, though we talk of laws, acts, conventions, they are unaware of this. So we have to make them, get them into the system and to know what is happening in the system. So the police, I'm very, very happy to say that I have spoken to the director of the cyber crimes information division, and they have alerted the society, and many of these areas have been decreased due to these awareness programs.
Right. Okay. In fact, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, issuing a press release recently, said that advised the public, saying the public is strongly advised to exercise due diligence and care to avoid being victims of the scams operating in the guise of money lending businesses, not to part with confidential information such as your PIN number, passwords, bank account number to strangers. Before we go in for a short commercial break, I'd like to come to you, Charuka. In the event a person faces an issue with regard to the cyberspace, what is the role of SL CERT? Can they also come to you and hand over a complaint? Does your organization have investigative powers? Speak to us about the scope of that.
Yes, Sonali. So, if a public wanted to lodge a complaint, you can do it through our online web portal. So it's CERT.gov.lk, and also for the public awareness, as an initiative of Sri Lanka CERT, we have launched a separate website for online safety. So it goes as onlinesafety.lk. You can find number of different guidelines, especially for public as well as government or any other private organizations that seeking this information in terms of securing their cyberspace. And also, if we have divided those complaints in terms of social media and cybersecurity-related incidents. So if you want to lodge us a complaint in terms of social media, you can send us an email to report@cert.gov.lk, and from that you will be getting acknowledgement and steps to follow in terms of escalating your lodge or complaint in terms of the nature of your complaint. So specifically, if you are like complaining about social media, we will be providing you with the technical steps in order to take down whatever, let's say if it is a fake account or if it is a hacked account, we will be giving you a set of instructions, technical instruction in order to take down that specific post or even fake account, or in order to recover your hacked account. So if the person wanted to go on with getting legal advice, will be directing to the law enforcement, possibly as a police CID division. And also, if anyone want to physically visit us, we'll be providing that facility as well.
All right, fantastic. We're going for a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're discussing cryptocurrencies, cybercrime, and grievance redressal mechanisms in Sri Lanka. We spoke about the role of SL CERT, the role of the Sri Lanka police in ensuring minimizing the incidence of cybercrime and the grievance redressal mechanisms. Charuka, when you usually receive a complaint, how long does the process take? Because something that we see in Sri Lanka is, in general, when it comes to redressing grievances, there is a limited amount of resources in terms of personnel, equipment, technology, etc. So given these limitations, how long does
Yes, Sonali. Actually, it really depends on the context of the incident. So if you take a cybersecurity related incident like a DDoS attack, since this cyber attack can be a borderless act, you need to coordinate with several organizations, or I would say stakeholders that can be residing over the globe. So actually, it takes time in order to do the investigation in terms of the context of the cybersecurity incident. But in terms of social media related incidents, what we advise the public is to first use the reporting functions in provided by those online platforms first, because that would be the easiest and the most fastest way in terms of removing those or resolving those issues. So after that, you can go into local authorities or getting technical advice in order to escalating your issue.
Right. ASP Wutler, an issue that we see in cryptocurrency related scams is the difficulty to trace the perpetrators. So if the perpetrator does not reside in Sri Lanka, then there are jurisdictional issues that the Sri Lanka police have to face. What do you do in such circumstances?
To be frank, Sonali, we get very few. Rather, it's 100%. We don't get cryptocurrency complaints to the police. Number one, there is no such law in the system, if I'm not mistaken, to adhere to these cryptocurrency matters. So investing on cryptocurrency, it's a wasteful or it's an in-vain investment. What I feel in the Sri Lankan policing system, we don't get any other complaints with regard to cryptocurrency matters. But even if we get, since there's no such law enacted,
okay,
we are not in a position to proceed with.
Right. Mr. Christie, you disagreed that the Sri Lankan legal system does not provide for, when I said that there may be lacunas in the Sri Lankan legal system, you said, look, we have laws enacted and in place, but ASP Wutler says that
interesting one. Right. Let me put it in context, right? So what he is actually saying is, today when I use my credit card, what does the bank tell me? That I am supposed to use the card and spend it for my personal use. I can't use my credit card to make investments. So here you are making investments, right? If cryptocurrency is to be treated as an investment activity, right? So on an online platform, you're buying a commodity, right? So from a legal perspective, the laws are very clear. Like, I mean, in terms of if somebody is actually using technology to commit a crime, they can be taken to courts and the procedure can be followed. Now, the challenge here is somebody invests money, they don't know who they are investing it with, and the traceability. Then again, we'll have to go, as Sir Charuka said and the inspector said, go lodge those complaints, and this process has to take place. And in their case, I'm sure they will collaborate with the global agencies and say that we've had this instance of crime here, and then look at seeing, okay, whether they can actually have identified anybody committing similar crimes and whether there are any traces pointing to Sri Lanka. But the challenge we have is it's going to take a long time, because some of these cases, now for example, if somebody lost, let's say, 1,000 rupees or $1,000 worth of money.
No, it's in millions.
Yeah, so we are talking about individuals, right? So when an individual loses 1,000, cumulatively it can run into millions.
Yeah. But now we are hearing of incidents because we have victims
Yeah,
come to us, speak to us saying, look, we don't have any where to go, because when we go to the police, they say that they can't do anything about it, or they take down our complaint and that's it. So where do we go to from here when people are in desperation and they don't know what to do and they've lost out maybe millions of rupees?
Yeah.
We need some sort of way
New laws
in which
has to be enacted,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
So new laws, yes, agreed. So all I'm saying is people have to come forward and make those complaints. Now, for example, if people have not gone to his department and lodged a complaint, now, according to him, nobody has gone to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So somewhere we need to educate people saying there is a way to go and lodge a complaint. Please follow the process. So I guess, in my mind, the awareness levels have to increase. What we are doing is very little. So little. Now, if the number of crimes which have come down year on year, that's because we have done a lot of awareness. But I'm still saying it's not enough.
Yeah, and also the crime rate and the crime rate which is actually reported
It's very
completely different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm aware of several cases where they have not even approached the police.
Mm. Yeah.
Because in some cases, let's say, if let's say there is nothing more you can do about it,
Sure.
what more can you do? So some of them are, reported, some of them don't even attempt. Some of
Yeah.
them actually suffer amongst themselves.
Absolutely. Charuka, don't you think that CERT can play a greater role, since you guys have the technical expertise? You just need to take it to the people so that people also are aware, made aware. So then, in fact, then that'll make your lives much easier because you'll have less complaints coming in.
Exactly, yes, Sonali.
Do you think you could undertake to perhaps, I don't know, starting a trilingual awareness campaign?
Exactly. As I think awareness plays a key role in terms of cybersecurity. I think that's why it has become one of our main services, awareness services.
Okay.
I think you may have heard that over the last 10 years, we have been putting up a national cybersecurity conference, which target public as well as organizations in private sector. Not just only that, we have done a lot of awareness around the country to target groups like law enforcement authorities, school children. But I agree with you, we have to scale up that into a greater level in order to achieve this, to make this secure cyberspace. Yeah.
You also spoke about multi-stakeholder collaboration. In the event there is and crypto cyber crimes are borderless. So if we're talking about perpetrators living outside of Sri Lanka, what are the agencies that you deal with usually?
Yes, Sonali. So as Sri Lanka CERT has been a national computer emergency readiness team, we are part of the Asia Pacific CERTs known as AP CERT. So we are closely working with them. We have annual cybersecurity drills that is working with, collaborating with several other CERTs. Not just only that, we are part of the global forum for incident response team known as FIRST. And that's how we coordinate with other organizations around the world, and also with the local authorities like police, NCPA, National Child Protection Authority, and the Ministry of Women and Child Bureau. So the collaboration is very crucial in terms of handling these cybersecurity related incidents.
ASP Woodler, your concluding remarks. How important is it to create awareness? Don't you think the Sri Lanka police has a greater role to play in ensuring that not just the people, English-speaking people in Colombo are made aware about these kinds of cyber crimes, but also people living in villages in Mulathiu and Hambantota?
Yeah, as I told Sonali, every police station has taken this into a lot of consideration with regard to cyber crimes. and also especially on the matters with regard to child abuse and porns, with regard to social media trafficking, all those matters. Each and every police station of rural areas, even not even Colombo, even in the rural areas, the police are on it. We know how the victims are suffering. We know how, especially when a child who comes with who have been a victim through social media, we know the pattern, how she faces, how she confronts even at a station. So all those matters are being considered, and highly attention is given even in the local areas. Now especially you were talking about Mullatingi, Jaffna and all. There are Sinhala speaking, Tamil speaking, English speaking officers who have been deployed in those areas to disseminate the message, to tell the people about these offences.
All right. Finally, Mr. Sujit Christie, what is the way forward in this paradigm?
Okay, awareness is the way to go. So I represent an organization, a professional body, IC Squared, which is based off the US. So we have the local chapter, we call ourselves the IC Squared Colombo chapter. Our objective is to create a safe and secure cyberspace. That has been our vision right from the inception. So I was involved in creating awareness content way back in 2010. And so the first prototype was done in India. I was involved in that. And then we started doing that in Sri Lanka as well. And then we also started working with Sri Lanka CERT, and we also started looking at ways to disseminate this awareness through various professionals. Being security professionals, a certified, qualified professional who has a global certification, they are equipped to deal with cybersecurity related incidents. So one, while helping the corporates to be secure, we also focus on individuals as to how they should conduct themselves in the cyberspace and stay safe. So the way forward, more education, more awareness, and I think that area has to be improved. So for me, I would say we need to educate all our teachers. We need to take this to all the schools, right into the primary education, because with the lockdown, the COVID, everything has transformed to digital platform. So sometimes even the parents don't know what the kids are doing, right? And sometimes the kids may not even be able to deal with these things. So I think we need to create awareness, scenario-based scenarios, and tell the kids and the teachers, or even the senior citizens, in telling them, okay, this is how you deal with technology. In case you come across a situation, who do you reach out to? Right now, I'm sure we all have told our kids, what is a bad touch? Right? And what they should be doing if somebody is touching them inappropriately. We need to take the same messaging with respect to the cyber education as well. So that's my thought, and we are here to help anyone who would like to gain out of our experience and build awareness content, or even talking to us as to how we can actually help them to bridge those small gaps.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much for joining in this discourse, Mr. Sujit Christie, Assistant Director, Police Media SP Frederick Wutler, and Charuka Damunupula, Senior Information Security Engineers, Sri Lanka CERT. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you, Sonali, for having us.
This edition of the People's Platform. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again on Monday with the Sinhala edition of the program. Have a safe weekend and good night.